Hello everyone, greetings of the day. This webinar is about the project funded by ANRF under the scheme of State University Research Excellence. First of all, project investigators would like to gratefully acknowledge the financial support provided by ANRF. The main objective of this project is to evaluate effectiveness of stainless steel wire mesh for strengthening of precast beam column connections under progressive collapse scenario. In this webinar, we will mainly discuss a significance of the work along with some of the experimental aspects. So first question is, what is progressive collapse? As illustrated in this animated video, progressive collapse is a spread of initial local failure from element to element, which eventually resulting into the collapse of entire structure or disproportionately large part of it. It is a chain reaction failure which is similar to collapse of house of card when one of the card is removed. So what exactly happens during progressive collapse? When load carrying element of building structure, typically a column fails, the forces will be redistributed to the adjoining member. If these adjoining members are not able to resist these additional forces, they will also fail. And this failure will continue till the additional forces are stabilized. As a result, large part of building structure may fail compared to initial localized failure. Progressive collapse of any structure may result into considerable loss of human lives as well as natural resources. Therefore, it is very important to reduce the risk of progressive collapse. Several guidelines and standards have been formulated by different countries after the infamous collapse of WTC towers in New York. As far as India is concerned, IS 16700 for tall building, IS 15916 for precast and prefabricated building, as well as a draft version of IS 456 also says that progressive collapse should be avoided by providing alternate load paths through adequate continuity and redundancy. Precast construction is being rapidly adopted across the world, including in India, in recent years. The largest cricket stadium of the world in Ahmedabad is constructed through precast technology. Number of high-rise buildings are being constructed using precast technology because it offers several advantages such as faster constructions, superior quality, lesser requirement of on-site labors, etc. However, in precast structures, connections are critical elements as they introduce discontinuity of strength and stiffness. In past, a major failure of precast structure is observed because of connection failure. The connection between precast elements are usually of two types, either a wet connection or a dry connection. In wet connections, reinforcement bar projecting from the individual element are embedded into preformed ducts or gaps, and later on these empty spaces within the connection region are filled with cast-in-place concrete. While in dry connection, two elements are connected purely by mechanical means such as steel plates, cleat angles or couplers, etc. As number of high-rise building structures are constructed through precast technology, it is very important to evaluate progressive collapse potential of precast structure. Another keyword of the project is strengthening. Strengthening is important to restore and enhance the load carrying capacity as well as to increase the lifespan of the structure. Different strengthening techniques are adopted for more than 4 decades to increase the performance of the deteriorated structures. Among these different techniques, strengthening using externally bonded FRP wrapping is widely adopted in practice because of advantageous properties of FRP materials such as high strength to weight ratio, high tensile strength, better corrosion resistance, etc. Glass, carbon, and basalt fibers are some of the different FRP materials which are commonly used for external wrapping or confinement. They demonstrated excellent results and improved the overall structural response. However, issues such as brittle failure of FRP strengthened elements or rebonding of FRP material are also reported by the researchers. Further, the performance of FRP materials at elevated temperature is a concern. Therefore, in the present study, stainless steel wire mesh is explored as a strengthening material for precast beam column connections. SSWM is locally available and cost-effective material which comes in the roll form. It is having an orthogonal grid configuration with stable view as shown in the SEM images. It provides superior ductility and better thermal stability at elevated temperature compared to FRP materials. These are some of the objectives of the project. Here, major focus is to evaluate performance of SSWM strengthened precast beam column assemblies under column removal scenario through conducting experimental and numerical studies. This is in line with suggestion of IS 15916, which clearly says that adequate strengthening of external joints of precast structure is important and should be kept in mind for ensuring stability of precast structures. Reduced 1/3 scale specimens are considered for the experimental studies. Now let us quickly go through some of the aspects related to experimental work. These are the typical photographs of casting of precast test specimens. Specimens with different precast connection detailing are considered for the study. M25 grade of concrete is used for casting. Typical shape of the specimen comprises two span beam and three columns with removed middle column. Here, this removed middle column represents the progressive collapse scenario. These are some of the photographs of strengthening using SSWM. SSWM is bonded on the concrete surface with the help of epoxy adhesive Sikadul 30LP. Two different wrapping configurations are adopted for this study. This is a schematic diagram of experimental test setup adopted for the study. Test specimen is restrained in both horizontal and vertical direction. Load is applied at the location of removed middle column with the help of hydraulic jack. This is an actual photograph of specimen arranged in the setup before loading. Here is a small footage of actual laboratory testing of specimen. Of course, this is a small footage of fast-forwarded video. Load cells, LVDTs, and electrical resistance strain gauges are used to measure load, deflection, and strain values respectively. Response of all the quantity is captured in laptop through data acquisition system. The response is evaluated in terms of load deflection behavior, deflection profile of the specimen, strain values, as well as failure characteristics. Other parameters such as stiffness, ductility, and energy absorption capacity is also calculated based on the load deflection response. The sample graphs of different response parameters obtained through post-processing are shown here. Based on the study results, it is observed that SSWM effectively enhances the load resistance of beam column assemblies under column removal scenario. It reduces the severity and extent of damage around the beam column junctions and delays the failure. Carrying of SSWM and stretching of wire in mesh indicates utilization of its full capacity and effective contribution in load transfer even after yielding or rupture of rebars. Any significant debonding of SSWM from concrete surface is not observed. Overall, SSWM strengthening improves the structural response under column removal scenario and can be recommended for practical applications. However, it can be explored for strengthening of different RC elements under different loading conditions to make the wider acceptance. Once again, we would like to thank ANRF for providing financial support. We are also thankful to project associate, faculty and staff member of the department and PhD and PG students. Thank you.